Miranda Bishop. Miranda Bishop. When I spoke to Miranda, we were going through what can I mention about your convention, and the very last thing she said to me reminded me of an episode of Father Ted, where they're looking at cows that are miniature and cows that are in the garden, and the fact that they're the same size. So just to make the thick people at the back aware, Miranda's not really far away. She really is that short. So, to help out, I'm not going to move the mic stand. Oh, I am going to move the mic stand. You said you were cool about this. We've got a little stand for Miranda. There you go. I just want everyone to see it. Give it up for Miranda Bishop.
That's a really old joke that I've been using since I was about 12 with my first boyfriend. But yeah, so I'm actually going to talk a little bit about social media. I said to someone this morning that I was going to do a social media talk, and I said, another social media talk at Ignite. Great, so I'm really sorry if it's a little boring, but I'm sure I'll give you a different perspective on it. So this was a really good excuse for me to use a fantastic picture of Ryan Gosling. Hey girl, I love it when you talk about social media. And basically, it was also a good way of me actually pretending that my degree in English literature was worth something, using social media as a literary text. Now, first off, I do understand that Facebook and Twitter and everything else like that has its flaws. Invites to games like Candy Crush Saga and Farmville are pretty much the bane of my life, and I hate them. But it definitely has its good points as well. One of the main things in the media about social media is that it reduces language down so small. And basically, a lot of people think that, especially in younger teens and young children, that it actually reduces their use of language and their literacy skills. Basically, this is a really common misconception. Things like LOL and OMG have actually been added to the English dictionary now, and it's just a mere evolution of language. Loads of studies actually show that children who use Facebook and Twitter and blogging tools are actually far more engaged than students and children who don't. They're actually more inclined to write in the future, they're a lot more confident with their writing, and they're also more inclined to use certain kind of older traditional methods like writing their own short stories and song lyrics and actual real snail mail letters and everything. Yeah, just a little point about education there. I'll totally forgot more with the next slide. Oh yeah, that's it. Very good. So basically, it's also a way of educating young children in a real-time kind of sense, because news used to be spread by newspapers and things like that, but straight away with things like Pray for Boston, they are engaged, they're empathetic, and they're actually learning about what's going on in the world. On the flip side of that, this guy Terry Eagleton is a really awesome literary theorist, so look him up if you ever have time. He also said that sheer pointlessness has always been a really subversive affair. So this is a picture of my nail varnish that I constantly post to Instagram for anyone who actually follows me. But at the end of the day, it's the tiny little quirky things that make you what you are, and that's exactly what you should be proud of in any sense, if it's just in your personal time or if it's online as well. So when we're looking at traditional literature, a lot of people think of things like the Old English canon of Shakespeare and things like that, and think the social media are actually drawing focus all away from that. I actually think the complete opposite. They make it way more accessible to young people and to kids. I actually used the YouTube versions of Shakespeare's animated tales in my own degree. Please don't tell my lecturers that if any of you have ever studied at Cardiff. But it was actually way more interesting for me to build character because it was a different kind of medium and I got it way much more. So these are a couple of tweets from Huffington Post on Romeo and Juliet. My favourite one is the hashtag blame Rosaline for the tragedy. So Shakespeare actually came up with about 1,700 of his own different words. And this is just to illustrate the kind of evolution of language. It can be so quick. One guy just came up with hundreds and hundreds of different words. It shouldn't be any different with social media now. So looking back at other traditional schools of thought, you've got realism, modernism, and postmodernism, which is kind of what I want to focus on. Postmodernism is basically a really, really fancy way of saying Twitter and Facebook, but it was actually thought of like 100 years ago. So it's really incredible. This guy Leotard, who was who was the bane of my life during university, actually kind of came up with all these concepts of deconstruction and kind of meta-narratives. And they basically said that drilling down into tiny little glimpses of stories and sharing things from different avenues and different narratives was the way forward with literature. So basically they came up with Twitter and Facebook and microblogging and Pinterest and Tumblr all before it actually happened. So it's actually a really incredible way of seeing the evolution of language here. I also read an article recently in the New York Times which said that basically until you come up with a kind of Frankenstein way of doing science and making you immortal, the best way to eternal life is actually creating an online presence for future generations for yourself. So what I urge you to do now is get back to the blog that you started a year ago and never post on. Embrace your social media and live forever through the internet.
Well done,